Chapter 4. The bells of doom that first sounded in Enshli's mind came a few moments later, and it was none other than the sound of somber silence. On most days, the chirping of birds and the chatter of monkeys would resonate endlessly throughout the trees. This day started off the same, yet all of a sudden it became deathly quiet. It was as if every single speck of life had been snuffed out in a matter of seconds. The only sound Enshli could hear was the muffled murmurs of the kids at the far end of the cave. Amidst the foreboding quietness, even this normally inaudible noise seemed strangely deafening. He knew what was wrong. The only time an unnatural silence would befall was when the predator was within their midst. Every animal here had learned to fear these creatures. The ones that didn't were neither brave nor foolish. They were dead. To always live in and abide by fear. That was the rule of the forest. Enshli was a keen follower of this rule. To him, it was always better to be safe than sorry. Lifting his battered body up with an indistinct grunt, he dragged himself to his spear. He then propped himself up with it, using it like a cane of some sort. At this time, he was clueless about the impending threat. For now, that was merely a precautionary measure. The faint rustling of footsteps on dry grass broke the silence. Enshli's eyes widened as he tried to distinguish the number of potential hostiles. 1, 3, 5... With each rising number, the drubbing of his heart swelled to maniacal rates. Hot blood roared to his ears, and his breathing grew erratic. He knew that he was in no condition to fight. The only thing he could do was pray that his sixth sense was mistaken. It would have been nice if it was, but alas, it wasn't. The cave lions had arrived at the cave. They probed the air with their noses, giving one final inspection of their prey. Just a few Neanderthals left, they concluded. It wouldn't be much of a fight. And so they hurtled, all 5, their golden pelts glistening under the sun. The rays of light glimmered off their well-toned muscles. They crouched down, their beady eyes fixated on their target's dwelling. It was time. They decided unanimously. And in a powerful burst of the legs, they sprung forward right into the very mouth of the cave. As soon as the first cave lion came in sight, Enshli froze in fear. There was no way he could fend off a force of this size. Even when healthy, it was beyond the realms of possibility. And now, with a terrible fever, the notion seemed downright ludicrous. His mind spiraled into a frenzy somewhere among his own existence and the existence of the children behind him. By now, they had also caught sight of the intruders. They quivered and shook, frozen in place by gripping fear. It all comes down to this, Enshli thought. Do your worst. Between huffs, he raised his spear, pointing the tip right towards the cave lions. They didn't seem fazed in the slightest and let out intimidating growls while flaunting mouthfuls of crooked teeth. And as swift as a soaring arrow, they attacked. With its claws unsheathed, one sprung towards Enshli, going directly for his throat. He reacted in a split second and adjusted his spear while supporting himself against the wall. Using the aggressor's momentum against it, the tip plunged straight into his shoulder. It stumbled to the ground, hissing in fury, taken back by the instantaneous counterattack. Enshli pulled out the spear and looked straight at the others. His battle spirit began to blaze into action, and for a moment, all his pain and discomfort had vanished. "Come on," he mouthed, taunting them forward. And forward they did come. Even within the confines of a cave, they leapt at Enshli at once. They knew that it would take much more than a half-assed effort to score a decisive victory. Their claws hacked and slashed, and their jaws widened to frightening angles. Enshli fought back like a possessed beast, his spear tearing through the thick furs of the cave lions. He would grab one with his right arm and bash with his left, all while swinging off another that latched onto his thigh. The battle never seemed to end. Every time he fended off an attack, another would soon begin. And as soon as he dealt with that, there would be even more. For countless times, the cycle continued. He was at a glaring disadvantage, but he didn't know it yet. Every time he landed a hit, it was never a clean one. These cave lions were quick and agile and knew to evade his attacks, or at least limit the damage to minor areas. Enshli, on the other hand, had no luxury of choosing. Having to defend against a multitude of enemies meant that his hands were always full. He only worked to lessen the number of direct blows, not to stop them completely. As the battle dragged on, his stamina plummeted, and his wounds started to accumulate. The excruciating pain racked his spine, inhibiting his senses. His illness had also came back to bite him, as a boiling inferno developed in his skull. Soon, his moves grew sloppy, and his mind became phased. Yet, he fought on in desperate hope that his tribe would return in time. But it never happened. In a blindingly swift series of events, while he was launching his spear at an advancing cave lion, he failed to detect another just outside his peripheral view. A powerful jaw clamped onto his right leg, and he felt the hellish sensation of bones being crushed into powder. With a yelp, he was dragged to the ground, and instantly he knew that it was game over. At least I tried, he thought. At least. He winced and squeezed his eyelids shut, mentally preparing himself for the moment that he would finally bite the dust. But it never came. For some reason, the jaw slackened, and the cave lions leapt back. But how? Why? Then he saw it. The silhouette of a heroic figure standing between him and his enemies. This figure had long, flowing black hair, a muscular body, as well as a dark, gaping scar that dragged straight across his back. As the figure turned his head, a set of turquoise eyes came into view. These eyes swirled with a wild murkiness, and the overwhelming waves of wrath and bloodlust tumbled and crashed within. The figure let out a bellowing roar, a roar so mighty it shook the heavens, and so fearsome it sent spasms of panic into every foe it crashed into. It was a primal roar, something one would only make in a paroxysm of pure rage.
Dad.
Enshli whimpered, stretching his arm out.
Is that you?
Something resembling a fleeting smile emerged on the figure's face, and all of a sudden, everything went pitch black.